Yeah, we were rallying a couple of cars on the bush track down here, and one car came off the side of the road, and we both, I went around to help, and I was signalled by my friend that there was mud and not to come any further, so I stopped the car where it was, and we were trying to get the car out for about 10 minutes, and revving the engines. It was obviously just stuck in mud. It just made the situation worse, and we were making a lot of noise. It was very quiet, and after about 10 minutes, we could hear something in the distance. And
so how long ago and about what time was this?
About 11 o'clock at night.
Okay, and how many years ago was this?
This is probably 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And and once we heard something rustling around, we turned the engines off so we can hear it clearly. And at first I thought it's a horse or something like that because of the size of it. It just sounded really big, and it was the path that it was taking was the same path that the road was on, and I was thinking to myself, why is it not in the road? And as I got a bit closer, I started to hear footsteps, like one after the other, and I was thinking to myself, it's a man. Why is he not walking on the road? And
let alone coming out of the bush.
Out of the bush, and it was thick. Like it sounded like it was just clearing a path. It was like a bulldozer just clearing a path directly towards us, and it was getting closer and closer. And as it approached the tree line, it just stopped, and that's when I was convinced it was a man.
Right. So, but you said it's approaching the headlights of the car with the car in front blocking the actual.
Yeah, and it came out in the shadow between the two bits of light. It came out right in the centre of in the dark spot. So we are, watching it, and then I decided,
because you can't see it properly.
I couldn't see anything. Couldn't see anything. It was still behind the tree line, and I actually said, the car's broken down. Do you think you can give us a hand? So
you're basically asking a possible Yowie for mechanical help.
Yes, yeah.
No worries.
As I said,
because you're assuming it's a human.
When I heard the footsteps, it was. I was convinced. It's a person. Yeah. It's nothing else walks with two distinct footsteps. I was convinced it was a person, and then when I got no reply, I after maybe 2 minutes or something, it started growling. And it was doing this.
What's it sound like? A dog growl?
Nah, like a really deep, I don't know if you call it a growl or it was a really low sort of. It wasn't like a dog barking or something known to me. It was like a really low noise,
which implied a big chest cavity.
Yeah, and more so later when after it was growling for a little while. It could have been a minute or so, and we're both like, what is that? What is that? What growls like that? Do kangaroos growl like that? Do other things growl like all these things were going through?
You're trying to rationalise it.
Trying to rationalise it. Like it went from being a horse to is it a kangaroo? Then it's a man, and back to being an animal again. Yeah. And so
how did you react when it first growled? You started to panic a bit more, or
no? I was still fine at that point.
Yeah.
I was saying to my friend, let's get something out of the car. Let's get some weapons, and because I thought it was an animal. Yep. So I went to the car that I was in, and there was a normal club lock. So we slid the small bit out of the club lock, and I left that in the car, and I just had the big end of the club lock. My friend went to his car, and he had a two-piece pull cue in the case, the little zippable cases for them, and he pulls out the heavy end of the pull cue. So he's got the pull cue, and I've got the club lock. And as soon as we come around the cars and back into view of this thing viewing us, as soon as it saw that we had weapons in our hand, then it started screaming. And this scream was like a primal scream, and it went for about 40 to 50 seconds. Non-stop. It could have... It sounded like it was non-stop.
Yeah.
And I was thinking back, it had a huge lung capacity. I couldn't even do it at that volume. The volume was so loud that I couldn't even attempt to make anything like it.
So you listened to that for 40 seconds or so. What happened then?
We were basically, we forgot we had the weapons. We were practically next to each other holding on to each other. We were that scared.
Yeah.
It went from being, you know, oh, I'm going to throw this club block at it, to this thing's going to attack us. And we actually did fear for our lives. I honestly thought I was going to get, you know, pulled to pieces by this thing.
Yeah.
It was just, fear took over, and I couldn't move. Like, it was just, it went from you know, one dynamic to the next. It was just, what did
you do? Bolt?
No, I couldn't move. I had to know where it was the whole time. I didn't want to turn my back and run towards the car. I had to we just stood there looking at it, and looking into the bush, and it was shaking the trees at the same time.
Right, that's interesting too. And how tall were these trees would have been?
The trees were maybe 10 metres, 12 metres high,
yeah.
and it was shaking maybe a couple of them, because there was a large area, maybe of 3 metres across, that was shaking.
Just whipping them around a bit?
Just whipping them around. And yeah, so while it was doing that, you know, we were pretty scared, holding on to each other. I didn't want him to get taken, he didn't want me to get taken. And then it stopped, and then it started growling again, the same growl that it did in the first place. And then it ran, and I thought it was making the charge towards us. And you know that scream that you do when it's sort of like to brace yourself, like it was. We both did that. It was just like to brace ourselves for being attacked.
Yeah.
And it didn't actually come towards us. It ran left, further down the tree line, still not within sight. And it stopped again. It screamed, not for as long, maybe a quarter of the time, and then it ran off again further to the left. Actually, when it ran from one spot to the next, it made a distance of maybe 15, 20 metres in an instant. It was just such a quick movement from left to right. From right to left. And then, it screamed, and then it ran further after it stopped screaming to the left. And we could hear it splash into water. And it made a couple of splashes into water. And then we kept listening, and we didn't hear anything after that. And we tried maybe... No, actually, we got some stuff out of one of the cars and just said, let's get out of here. And we just locked up the car and decided that he'd get his car in the daytime or whatever. We just didn't really plan anything. It was just like, grab stuff out of the car, jump into this car, let's just get out of here. Now, I didn't talk. I don't remember talking on the way home, and my friend was trying to prompt me to talk. He was saying, like, come on, talk, talk. And I was like, I just couldn't talk. I was just, I'm pretty sure I was suffering from shock. It was...
Which is not unusual for that situation, is it?
Yeah, like, it was pretty bad. Like, there's the fear of somebody going to beat you up, and then there's the fear of something going to literally attack you and rip you to pieces, and that's what it felt like. It was I've always thought it was a territorial sort of a thing, and it definitely felt territorial to me, like, you're not supposed to be here. I'm going to do this big display to get you to leave. And we didn't leave because we were so scared, and it left. And that was another thing that always found a bit strange. It ran away. Like, we stood our ground by means of fear, and it ran away. And we always referred to the area or that incident as, the Yeti before I ever knew what it was. We didn't know what it was. And for years I was looking around on the internet trying to find what it was, and had no idea about yowies and all that sort of stuff. And eventually, found some information on the internet which led me to a few different websites.